That is a Vincent Gallo film that Wet Leg sings about. It is different.
So which one are we? Are we talking about Buffalo 66 or American
Buffalo? But now I want to groove on the Wet Leg song. Why don't you want to come home with me? I got Buffalo 66 on DVD. Buffalo 66, I think, in that song stands in for a kind of sort of. I would rather be hunting and foraging.
Would you? I don't. I mean, it's a lot of work.
Well, there's actually a debate about how much work it was. Marshall Solins wrote Stone Age Economics. I think it's now agreed that people pretty much worked about as much as the hunters and gatherers worked about as much as we do now. Although
as like an agriculturalist system.
Yeah, although I think at one point Marshall Solins argued that they only spent 25 hours a week hunting and gathering, and I think that might actually be true. But then you spend a lot of time cooking and scraping the sinew off of fur and building boots and things like that. So I don't know. But certainly parking feels like a ridiculous thing to have to think about.
That is New York City kind of welcoming you back with open arms.
Yeah.
That's like New York City being like, you're back.
You're back.
We haven't seen you in 15 years. Yeah. Here's a ticket. Here's the one thing I can that I can reliably provide to you every morning.
And you wake up at 5 a.m. and I really hope to God it's some obscure Jewish holiday I've never heard of. So
yeah, right, exactly. Or that for some reason the street cleaning's on the other side. And
this is, I would say, one of the reasons that New York is my least favorite place to live of all the places I've lived. It's a great city to visit. I'm glad that it exists. And the New Yorkers are welcome to it. It is a city that extracts the highest cost for me of just sort of being there, both in terms of the actual cost, but then also you can't even park a car. You can't.
The life tax is
high.
Well, Dukes, we are back.
Yeah.
Upper Middlebrow is back. Upper Middlebrow rides again.
Uh-huh.
What are you excited about here in season 4 of Upper Middlebrow?
Really, all of it. It's a tough question because I'm taking them one at a time, and I'm finding myself a little bit grumpy about movies these days, and we have a lot of movies coming up, and I don't know. So maybe this spoils. I think I'm excited to sort of dig in to the question of am I just grumpy because I'm middle-aged and I'm nostalgizing some kind of non-existent golden age or something really changing that I am keen to. So I'm sort of excited to dig into that. I mean, so much of what we're doing, both this came from that, but then also my series of Dick Lester films, plus we've got a couple of labor films in there. They're all kind of adaptations of, many of them are adaptations of books, and also many of them are kind of classic films. And so I'm going to be interested in sort of digging into those stories and trying to find some patterns. I don't want to give too much away, but I don't know how far apart we are in this film, but I'm not, what did I say? I'm disappointed. I was a little disappointed with Project Hail Mary. I don't think it was great. I think it was only good. To me it was good, but not great in a way that feels sort of consistent with a lot of the last 20 years of Hollywood, starting with The Lord of the Rings, including the Dune films. Faithful, well-made, but sort of unsurprising and Dutiful. And also in a kind of contemporary sensibility that I'm just not sure I appreciate that much anymore. A contemporary sensibility that may have started around the 90s with films like The Matrix and Gladiator, sort of maybe kind of evolving from Hong Kong action flicks and John Woo, a kind of fast cutting, some martial arts timing, these sorts of things that was kind of exciting at one point, but now it's just become sort of normalized. So anyway, I'm excited to go back a little bit in time and see if my frustrations hold up. It was a long answer to your question.
No, I think it's a great answer. I mean, I saw it again last night, and just as you and I were frustrated the first time we saw it, I was very, very frustrated by the
Mm.
previews. That was like where I was just like, this is awful. Like this is this sort of like if you wanna wrap up like what feels like everything that's wrong with movie culture at the moment, like go sit through 7
Pay
previews
eight.
and a bunch of ads that that purport to also be previews for a second or two, and you only know it's not a preview because you didn't get the green, the green screen beforehand that said this is approved for audiences of whatever. Yeah, I don't know if your experience was the same the first time we saw it, but the cynicism starts early these days in the movie theater.
Yeah, people have talked about why people don't go to see movies as much anymore. There's a decline in theater going, and I think like streaming is basically barely keeping Hollywood alive.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, you and I saw it together in a movie theater with enormous plush leather seats that fully reclined, where the smallest popcorn you can buy is like roughly the size of a Kentucky Fried Chicken bucket of chicken. And it costs like $8. And, and by the way, the value is perfectly fine for the volume. But I think it's just so clear that what you are being taken through is a money extraction process, a value extraction
100%.
process. And I think, sure, that has always been in the case in Hollywood. Like you've always bought your ticket, bought your drink, and been sent into an air-conditioned theater with a seat. But there's something. It's all been amped up. It's been pumped up. It's been bloated. It feels bloated. And therefore the movies have to be they have to be everything to everybody. They have to be family movies that you can bring your kids to, and it's worth spending $100 bleeping, in order to buy like 4 tickets and 4 popcorns and 4 drinks. And so what you better get is a sort of bigger than life reality action movie that's got moments of heart and moments of romance, if we're being sexist for the moms, and have got like sort of funny fart jokes if we're being ageist for the kids, and have got like sort of weird erudite jokes if we're being anti-ageist for the old men, something for everybody. And, this movie is still a good movie, but I just had the sense of like, this is trying to do everything. And it costs $200 million. It's made over 400 million, over 500 million. And I'm glad this movie made money. And maybe I hope that in having a honest to God summer blockbuster or spring blockbuster, maybe that takes some anxiety off Hollywood to just like make small, interesting movies again. But yes, I feel that really frustratingly, and I feel like it also colored my experience of the film, unfortunately, even though there's a whole hell of a lot to like about the movie.
Yeah. We're getting way ahead of ourselves, but I'm going to save my next question for you, because I'm actually I'm going to bump my final question up to the top when we get to it, because I think it pertains, and it'll probably roll into your question about movies, but we'll see. But upper middlebrowers, we are back, and we are here to talk about this year's film Project Hail Mary, adapted from the novel Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir, which we examined back in 2023, I believe, was when we did it. And we used a book called Hamlet's Hit Points to analyze the beats of the book. We both liked it. We found there are a few areas that, probably could have used some work. But in general, we were like 2 thumbs up, I think.
Yeah.
Is that what you remember of our trip through the book?
Yeah, I think we loved it. I mean, I think of this as one of the classic episodes. When I did our rerun episode, I mentioned this, but this was very early on in the podcast, and we read it about the time I was like starting my camper trip.
Yep.
So I felt kind of like Grace, and
Yeah.
I sort of felt like Grace talking to my friend Rocky, except for it was Bag rather than Rocky. I remember riding my bike while living in a campground in Central Florida, and like riding my bike on the bridge that goes out to Cape Canaveral, and listening to the audiobook of the You Know Can Die,
Mhm.
that
Yep.
scene, and getting tears in my eyes. I remember, so it's so interesting because it was only 3 years ago, but my life was in a completely different phase, and I was kind of
Yeah.
escaping a place that was not so great for me. Yeah, and I would say, like, not only did we both like the book, I would say, if anything, my estimation for this book has grown in the last 3 years. Like, I
Yep.
think it's a near perfect. It maybe not as literarily ambitious as some books, maybe not as mind-bendingly ambitious as some sci-fi novels, but as just like a good, cracking, kind of plausible hard adventure
Mhm.
sci-fi story. I think it's as good as it gets.
And the more I consider it, and actually when I went and watched it again last night, and was way more touched this time than
Mm.
last, and it made me think back to the book and be like, right. This book is not, it is all those things. It is a hard sci-fi
Hmm.
adventure, problem solving. Like, let's get the dry erase markers and the whiteboard out, and let's do some
Yeah, yeah,
math, and and things like that. And there's some really good action writing that I think actually surpasses the action sequences of the
me too.
movie. Uh, and but then it's like all of those things, and those things kind of cover up the fact that this is actually a book about friendship and maturity.
Yeah, and I would,
That like
and
yeah.
I would say, like, there's kind of three things the movie could have gotten right. One is the kind of plot sci-fi problem solving as drama that the book nails.
Hmm.
Another is the Grace's sort of cowardice redemption arc. And the third is this is a love story about two friends.
Hmm.
And I think
Yeah.
it gets the third one right. And
Yeah.
kind of whiffs on the other two a bit. But gets the third one right.
I would I think when we get into it, I'm gonna push back on the whiff about the second
Okay.
one. But let's I'm gonna actually give us a quick little plot summary. Listeners, we are trying a brisker plot summary. But I'm just gonna tear through this here. But in our particular situation here, the sun is dimming. It's been infected by some unknown organism or a process that has also infected a bunch of other stars in the local corner of the galaxy. Humanity mobilizes to save the world, sending 3 astronauts to a relatively nearby star system that isn't infected to try to figure out a solution. Our main character's name is Ryland Grace. He is eventually the science officer on the mission. He's played by Ryan Gosling. And when he gets out to Tau Ceti, he meets an alien from a planet called Arid 40, and they realize that they are not threatening to each other. And then together they form a friendship and come up with a plan to save both Earth and to save Arid. Over the course of the film, we learned that Grace at first was just a member of the science team supporting the mission, wasn't going to go on the flight, but then an accident kills 2 of the other astronauts. Grace gets drugged and forced onto the mission, and that's a detail that he recalls only late in the story due to the sort of uh, amnesia ex machina effect of the drug that was given to him. But Grace and Rocky, the alien, after some hijinks and difficulties, they are successful in saving their 2 worlds. And in a late plot twist that pays off the maturity angle, Grace does something selfless, saving Rocky from certain death, even though it means that Grace won't be able to go home for a long time, if ever. But it's okay, because he is back to his original job teaching science to little Iridians on Arid 40. What'd I miss?
Two things. You alluded to this, but the movie is very faithful to the plot beats of the book, and like the book, it is told in 2 time frames. So there is the present, which is Grace alone on the spaceship, later Grace and Rocky on their 2 spaceships, and there is the past, which is rendered in a series of flashbacks. As you alluded to, Grace is slowly recovering his memory, and that is also how we, the audience, learned the backstory of how Grace comes to be on this mission, what the stakes are, both the save the world stakes and also the personal stakes.
Why don't you actually, why don't you go with your question about movies first? I want to hear what that's about, and then maybe that'll kick off my second experience question.
I wonder if we have the same question.
Maybe we do.
What do you think makes a good film adaptation of a book? Or what do you hope for if you enjoy a book and they make a film about it?
You know, it's not a fully faithful rendition of the book. And, you know, I did you see this twice? Did you? Or did you see it
no, but I have a good memory, and I took a lot of notes. And I read the screenplay.
Nice. You know, maybe it was the fact that there was three of us seeing it with the time that we saw it together, and then this last time it was just me. I noticed way more details this time, mostly in the cinematography, that really stitches the two time signatures of the present and past together in a very compelling way. And I was very, very impressed and was like, oh, wow, okay, that is something that I really missed. But no, one of my questions that I wrote and then deleted was I was basically just going to ask you, what is the story of this movie? Because I think the story of this movie sort of operates on it's like the D&D alignment matrix, you know, but in this particular case, we have cowardice and bravery on two ends of one of them, and friendship and loneliness on the other two ends of the of the spectrum, or maybe connection and loneliness or something like that. And as I was watching the movie for the second time, I was like, oh, okay, they are actually doing a good job of portraying that. But it's too close. It's too close to the book without it being the book. Have I forced you into my obsession with Lewis Carroll's map paradox?
No.
That's in Bruno and Sylvie Concluded. Nope. It's amazing. The narrator, who is talking with, I can't remember who the character is, but these characters that the narrator is talking with are attempting to create a one-to-one map, a map that has a one-to-one scale. And there's the absolutely hilarious line where the narrator says, "Interesting. Do you use it much?" And one of the other characters says, like, "No, we haven't figured out how to unfold it yet, but we really think that when we do, it's going to be great."
That's Lewis Carroll. It's brilliant. It's like Tom Stoppard.
It's magical. It's one of my exactly. Good old Synecdoche.
Which is that a what's his name? Who wrote Buffalo 66?
Oh, Mamet.
Is that is Synecdoche, New York?
No.
Yeah, you're right.
No, he wrote American Buffalo.
You're right. Correct.
What is Buffalo 66?
That is a Vincent Gallo film that Wet Leg sings about. It is different.
So which one are we? Are we talking about Buffalo 66 or American
Buffalo? But now I want to groove on the Wet Leg song. Why don't you want to come home with me? I got Buffalo 66 on DVD. Buffalo 66, I think, in that song stands in for a kind of sort of snobby hipster DVD collector. Vincent Gallo and Christina Ricci. Not such a great film. Vincent Gallo mostly plays a corpse. Christopher Penn is in it. American Buffalo, Glengarry Glen Ross. We're talking David Mamet. Did he write Synecdoche, New York? No, Charlie Kaufman wrote Synecdoche, New York.
Yeah,
okay.
That sounds way more like Charlie Kaufman and not like David Mamet.
Well, anyway, the one-to-one scale map is a Charlie Kaufman-like or Tom Stoppard-like idea.
And I think that, you know, that I mean, Lewis Carroll hits upon, you know, so sometimes being faithful to something else is in fact not helpful at all. You just create a facsimile. And, you know, I think you mentioned that the way that this book would really sing would probably be like a 6 to 8 part like TV miniseries, in a way that The Talented Mr. Ripley does not make an excellent 6 to 8 part TV miniseries. Because, whereas The Talented Mr. Ripley is more psychological and emotional, when you're doing hard sci-fi, like you got to give it some space to let the stuff breathe. And I think that really, if a good adaptation of this would have focused more on that matrix of cowardice and bravery and loneliness and friendship, which I think are the two major poles of this book. Rocky is kind of brave from the get-go. He's sort of always kind of like, kind of ready to go. And in fact, it is Rocky's selfless act of almost, certainly killing himself. There's a scene in the movie when the ship is in a spin and Grace is cannot reach the button that is necessary to actually save them. Grace passes out and Rocky enters the incredibly dangerous atmosphere to him to save Grace and almost dies in the process. So we know that Rocky is sort of the brave character and Grace becomes brave, and they both get less lonely. Rocky shows up with his entire crew, which was 23 Iridians, having died. Grace had 2 other crew members, but that's an order of magnitude. And so they both show up incredibly lonely. We also learn that Grace is suffering from a divorce, and is not quite over it and has been lonely for quite some time. And so what I found in watching the movie last night is that there is a greater tenderness and emotional center to the movie than there was the first time I noticed. And it is still not yet enough because they're still trying to balance all the sci-fi stuff and get the emotional arcs in there. And it's one of those things where you just can't get enough material in. And it's weirdly like we should look to something like David Lynch's Dune, like known as like a sort of Farrago. But he was like, we're not going to be able to tell this epic in 2 hours. I'm going to make a dirty film about corruption in outer space. And I think even though the David Lynch Dune is weird and not awesome, I think it's better than the current Dune movies.
Yeah, I didn't see it twice, but when we watched it, I was aware of how, at least I'm sure I would see more, but they were shoving little details and expositories. So like in that first 30 seconds or so of Grace waking up in the spaceship, you see the corpses of the 2 other astronauts. You see some photos. There's moments where you see photos of Grace's classroom. They're just shoving you these details of exposition in the sort of penultimate challenge where the nitrogen-resistant Talmeba escape, which is like 2 chapters in the book and takes about 45 seconds in the movie. All the details are there. They just happen too quickly for there to be drama, and they happen too quickly for us to sit with the emotion. We don't get Grace's loneliness because we don't get him being lonely very often, because they tried to shove all the details in this 2 hour and 45-minute movie, or however long it is. I mean, it's a long movie. And I agree. I think it could be a 6-episode miniseries, and you could even build upon the book. As you were talking, I wrote down off the top of my head, my favorite book adaptations, mostly all within the last 50 years. Jaws, The Shining, The Godfather, that's a little bit more than 50 years. First Blood, the first Rambo movie, Hunt for Red October, Three Musketeers, also a little bit more than the last 50 years. And I'm referring specifically to the Richard Lester films, which we're going to watch lately. One thing they all have in common is they butcher the original book. In some cases kind of pissing off the author, in some cases not, because I think in some cases the authors understand that they're not providing a text. What they are providing is source material for a filmic adaptation of some of the themes of their novel with some of the characters. And, I've got nothing against Drew Goddard, good for him. He did what Hollywood wanted him to do. I don't remember the name of the director of this film, but they've been involved in the Spider-Verse. Like, they did what they were supposed to do. But they just kind of crammed everything in there in a way that you lose a lot of the stakes, you lose a lot of the heart, you lose a lot of the glory. It still has moments of success in spite of that, just because like Ryan Gosling's performance vis the Rocky cartoon is like good, very good. Ryan Gosling has never led me astray that I'm aware of. Sandra Hutter, is that her name? Müller? Sandra Müller plays Ava Stratt. Great casting choice in some ways. I would say the casting choice makes her a more vulnerable and sympathetic character than the Stratt of the novel, but that's fine. Do that. And so you get a little bit more of a love interest. It almost saves what I find to be the overly comic version of Grace trying to weasel out of the mission where he does his runner, which is, in my opinion, played for comedy.
You get a Scooby-Doo moment.
Yeah. You could just about play Yakety Axe, right? There he goes! Grace is running off to the border! Yee-hoo! He's running around back a door. Go get him! Woo! That's Slippery Grace! Get that rascal! You're going up into space whether you want to or not! Yee-haw! That is the emotional tone of that scene. Meanwhile, Sandra Müller is as Ava Stratt is beside herself and just about salvages that moment, but not quite, because the setup is just too funny, in my opinion. And I just
100%. I was struck by that last night.
Yeah, and I just thought there were too many things like that. And and I agree with you. I think this would have been a great miniseries. Or they should have chosen which third of the movie they were going to do well and made a tight movie about that. I mean, there are a couple other things like that I have. But I'll pause now. In case unless you're going to ask the same question I was about adaptation.
Basically, I do want to plus one the Sandra Müller's performance in that moment. Seeing it again last night, the things that she says, please don't make this harder than it needs to be. You're not only watching a nascent breakup, because there is this little
bit of love tension,
maybe something, which of course is going to happen when you cast. I will say he's he's a very good actor. He's never let me down. It's Ryan Gosling. He's very charming. He's very attractive.
He's the wrong choice. I think he's the wrong choice. I think they should have made somebody less charismatic, because when Grace is revealed to be very understandably a coward. I mean, I'm not saying I wouldn't react in the exact same way. I very well might that he does. So it's very human and very understandable. But he is revealed to be less than heroic in a particular moment, especially compared to all the peers up at that point. You're already on his side, because he's Ryan Gosling with a pencil and reading glasses hanging out of his teeth, like writing things on a whiteboard, and he's just so adorable. Oh, look at little 45-year-old Ryan Gosling they're trying to nerd him up with like a blazer and reading glasses, but he's just
chunky cardigans,
but he's just so adorbs, he's just and he's just too likable, I think. And I was like, what if this guy was like Walter Paul Hauser or Paul
Giamatti,
Stephen Root, like 20 years ago, like a less charismatic, more flawed actor, Philip Seymour Hoffman, God bless his soul, somebody who you don't immediately like. And so somebody who has to work for that redemptive moment, so that the stakes of turning around that rocket and going and rescuing Rocky in the end land harder, but it's just basically a fait accompli at that point too. And also the whole like nitrogen resistant Talmiba plot I literally think it's explained in not voiceover, because they instead of having voiceover, he does his like video blog, which is like their version of voiceover, and it's explained in like 45 seconds, like, oh my God, the town amoeba got out. But then I flooded the whole thing with vacuum and da-da-da-da, killed them and it's fine. And, it felt like about that fast, whereas like
Yeah.
that is one of the biggest like kicks in the gut in the book. And the sciencing of that is one of my favorite moments of the book, where you get that whole analogy around like hitting the tennis balls into the jungle and then imagining if the
Yep.
tennis balls had brains and they could, like what would happen, like, and so find that very disappointing. And I agree. Yeah, I just think he's too charismatic. It's not his fault. It's not Ryan Gosling. Ryan
Nope.
Gosling did everything he was paid to do, and he did it,
Yep.
A+100.
Isn't that the whole problem with all the movies that we're talking about right now? People just being paid to do what they're supposed
Dutiful.
to do.
Yes. It's dutiful.
Yeah.
It's all dutiful. And this is a term you used for the second half of Snow Crash, and I've been thinking about it ever since. They just do the thing they're supposed to do, and that's all they do. I want film adaptations. It doesn't matter whether it's an adaptation of a book. I want movies to surprise me. I want them to take risks. I want to be shocked. I saw this movie by Radu Jude, this Hungarian or Romanian, like avant-garde filmmaker, called Continental 25 last week, and there were moments like where I was like, "What?" And like, I think the budget would have been something like 1% of Project Hail Mary. A lot of the scenes were shot on an iPhone, mobile iPhone, like on a Gorilla, like a little like tripod. But there was something that was striking. That was countercultural. That was weird. There were moments where I was like, "Holy crap!" And yeah, Peter O'Toole played the character Anton Ego, the critic in Ratatouille, the food critic, and at one point, the kid says like, "For somebody who likes food, you're pretty skinny," and Anton Ego's response is, "I don't like food. I love it. And if I eat something I don't love, I don't swallow." And I think, yeah, I don't want to like movies. I want to love them. And I liked this movie. And again, like, everybody, everybody showed up and did their jobs. And but I want films to kind of astonish me. And if you think, go 50 years into the past and look at Jaws, it was every bit as much of a popcorn movie. Or Close Encounters, which this movie homages multiple times.
Yep.
They're both popcorn movies that we still watch 50 years later. And they both are movies that were drawing from the past and homaging like John Huston films. But they were also like, nobody had ever seen anything like that before. And I haven't seen anything in a long time from Hollywood. I mean, the Daniels, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Bong Joon-ho, Parasite, Chloe Zhao's Nowhereland. I mean, there's some standout movies in the last 5 years or so. But we just get a lot of these big, effects-laden, well-acted, well-written, well-produced, well-shot, well-scored blockbusters that we're supposed to sit in our comfy chairs and eat like a gallon of popcorn and drink a gallon of Dr. Pepper and enjoy, and then like, go back home and sleep well and, slit our throats,
or
I
not
guess.
sleep well. Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, we become the the humans in Wall-E, in the reclining chairs with the soda and the TV screens that they just cruise around on, which, as self-driving cars and televisions in our cars, become more of a thing, like we're just headed in that direction. But yeah, I mean, I want adaptations to be like The Long Goodbye or An American Friend, where like you and I watch those and we're just like, what? Like, this is great, because they knew enough. Like, you cannot make, if you try to make a dutiful adaptation of The Long Goodbye, no chance. No one's going to go see it. It's going to be way too long. It's going to be way too confusing. It's going to be, I'm not coming up with the right word. I'm looking for another one that means, Byzantine sodden. Yeah. I would say just leaden, basically, ponderous. And this movie doesn't end up being ponderous because of the charms and the glitz. And Rocky's animation is mostly well executed, and it at certain times does get a little annoying and a little like I gotta say, watching or considering this entire plot in the shadow of Three Body Project and the Dark Forest, just being like, oh my God, they should not have contacted anyone.
Like, Rocky, what are you doing?
Like,
keep your head down.
Right.
Yeah, but that's
the
three-body hack, though. Like, listeners, if you're not familiar, like the three-body problem posits that any alien species that would encounter another one would be compelled to wipe them out, essentially, because they're not sure they're not going to be wiped out. But the one hack there is if you build a friendship between the two cultures and civilizations due to shared adversity, and that's how Andy Weir solves the three-body problem. Nice. And that's we can hope to believe that friendship is universal. I have a low tolerance for CGI, period. Like, I think visual effects peaked in about 1983 with like Alien, Return of the Jedi, puppets, practical effects still to me look better. CGI has gotten a lot better, but I can immediately tell that it's CGI. They always keep the lighting low. And and they also have like Rocky is sort of like cooing and chirping like kind of like a gerbil owl the entire time, and it's just overdone. They make him too.
I think you're talking about the gerbowl.
The gerbowl, yeah. The gerbowl. It's like the familiar of a very small mage.
It's the poorly planned descendant of an owlbear.
Yeah, exactly. It is like a cub. He sounds like an owlbear cub, like little chirps, and it's cute, and he bounces in a cute way. They turned him, and I don't know. I have a low tolerance for that. To me, it never looks realistic, and the way they light the CGI scenes, I can always tell, and it doesn't look good. Other people don't mind that as much, and I will say though, again, Ryan Gosling plays off that quite well. Do you mind if I give you my demonstration? Because
no, that's what I thought that's where we're headed with the gerbowl.
It sort of is actually. Yeah. Let me share sound and let me make sure I have the right links up. Okay. All right. So I'm going to play you roughly 30 seconds of Rocky. Now, the thing I want to point out here is that this movie is getting a lot of acclaim for its soundtrack. And there's some moments in the soundtrack that I thought really were nice. But one of my complaints when watching the movie was, this is just what you would expect from a soundtrack. And, I recently watched a 70mm print of 2001, which uses silence and the sound of breathing to great effect. And I thought this film could use some of that. So here is the scene where we meet Rocky. A little bit of it anyway. And I want you to listen to the music.
But I just got
There's
here.
the gerbil.
Oh, okay. Okay. Look, I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Note that swell of music. Orchestral. All right, then I'll play you something from a movie I rewatched again recently at the theater. Do you recognize?
Yes. Oh, yes.
First of all, why couldn't Grace wear those sunglasses?
Seriously.
And in my opinion, we're just doing the same thing we did 50 years ago with the music. Like, it's like, it's been... It's little strings, wonder.
I think it's
swell.
I think it's better in Close Encounters.
Yes, it is better in Close Encounters. There's a little more going on. There's a little more oboe. Close Encounters was a bit of a throwback in and of itself. Actually, like in the 70s, there was a move to synthetic scores and synthesizers, and both Spielberg and Lucas were movie brats who had grown up watching kind of cinematic scores. They brought that back. Like, that had kind of gone out of style. But, like, seriously, it's been 48 years. We can come up with a new musical palette. It's been 48 years. We're doing the exact same thing. I mean, there's a moment in the movie where they even make fun of it. I think there's even a moment where Grace plays boop, 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 boop. Yeah, plays the closing, and that's, of course, an homage, and that's lovely and all that. We all love Steven Spielberg, but come on, Hollywood, do something different. Surprise me.
Well, the thing that, the thing that you're hitting on here is that when Lucas and Spielberg are doing it in the 70s, it's a choice. It's intentional. They're intentionally calling back to those golden age movies of the 50s where you do have those like big, swelling, romantic, like Baroque kind of scores. And what's happening here is then we're like layering that on top of an Alien movie, which is interesting. And I don't think that's what's happening in Project Hail Mary in this particular case. It's just,
it's just what
you give us, it's just dutiful. And I mean, I will say, like, I did walk home last night being like, I felt more emotion this time. And I saw a lot of more things in the film that I admired. The cinematography in particular, that is not the CGI stuff, but the shapes. They did a very, very nice job of stitching scenes together through shape, which again, that's definitely a callback to 2001.
Visual transitions. So I mean, that's something Spielberg is very good at, and Lucas is very good at too.
So I think you're ending up more in sort of like a C++. I might be a B minus on this one, but I do think the film has more of an emotional heart. But I will then also further caveat that by being like, I think that if you hadn't read the book or seen the movie before, less of that is available to you. And so, I mean, like, I want somebody's experience of this movie that hasn't read the book or seen it already before, because I sort of feel like some of those people might walk away with that taste in your mouth when you drink a Diet Cola.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. And I would like to talk with somebody like that. The film did well, and that's good. It is very much a family movie, right? Like, there's something for everybody. I think that's good. It did punch me in the gut a few times, but really what it just did was remind me of how much I liked the book. There were just a couple moments that sort of summoned the kind of friendship and sacrifice between, and it, the book is just a great bromance. And there were moments, and, Ryan Gosling carries this where you feel that. And, so it's not a bad movie. You had this thing where you try not to give anything a 7, and it's like, oh man.
Ooh, this is a 6.
I feel like it's a 6. It's not an 8.
Yeah, this is not an 8. Nope, definitely.
And so to me, it's 3 stars out of 5. It's a very good 3 stars out of 5. It's a big, like, if there's a like 3.48, it's definitely more that than like 2.75, but we don't give ourselves that. It's a very well made, okay movie.
Well, I'm ready to go to trivia and see if we can get an episode in under 57 minutes or something like that. Let's see. I'm the host, so the scene where Eva Strott sings, was that put into the script 12 hours before it was shot, 48 hours before it was shot, or was that scene in the screenplay from not the beginning, but from when they were basically in production?
12 hours, 48, or from the very beginning? 48.
Yep. Correct. Yes. Apparently, Ryan Gosling heard Sandra Müller singing off stage, and he was like, whoa, you can really sing. I think we should put that into the film. And so she chose the song.
Yep.
And then they added it, less than 2 days before they shot it.
It's a contemporary. It's a
Harry Styles tune.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think it is one of the better kind of moments in the film. And here is the reason why you should not be faithful to the things that you're adapting is because you should be sensitive to the random possibilities that making a movie presents to you. And I think that this is, it's something that, I think that it's one of the moments in the movie that seems to lift off of we're just hitting the marks. And I really do think Müller is probably one of the lights of the film.
Yeah. And she's cast a little bit against the novel character. If you were doing a straight ahead Ava Strat, probably the natural choice would be like Tilda Swinton.
Glenn Close.
Glenn Close.
Tilda Swinton would be
Jamie
great.
Lee Curtis,
Robin Wright.
Yeah. So an Iron Lady. And instead we got somebody who's capable of that strength, but also has more vulnerability. You're sort of like, she's beautiful in a kind of startling way, in a kind of surprising way. And yeah, there's a little bit more there, and it's a discovery of the it's like the chemistry between Hooper, Chief, and Quint in Jaws. You can't fake it. Like it's a chemistry that's discovered on the set. Speaking of actor-based chemistry, in the film Barbie, also one of my 5-star films of the last 5 years, directed by Greta Gerwig. Prior to casting, while they were writing the script, the screenwriters, Greta Gerwig and her husband, Noah Baumbach, as you know, in that film, there are multiple Kens. There's not just one Ken. There are lots of Kens.
Yeah.
So in the screenplay, they had to give the Kens different Ken names in order to distinguish the different Kens. So what was Ryan Gosling's Ken name? Was it A, Ryan Gosling Ken, B, Ken, C, Beach Ken, or D, the Ken in God's eye?
That's a great one. Those are all plausible. Ryan Gosling Ken, or Beach Ken. I believe we see his incarnation first as Beach Ken. Ken is more in keeping with what generally happens with naming and places like that. Like, I think I've told you before that I have several Damiens in my life. There's Damien, there's Triathlon Damien, and there's Poet Damien.
Which Jesse am I? Or
I think you're like Jesse Prime. You're default Jesse, which is good. That's what you want to be. You're just Jesse.
Base Jesse.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank God you're not one of the plates of all the Joshes I know. I know like 10 Joshes. It's ridiculous. I'm going to go with Ken.
The correct answer is Ryan Gosling Ken.
God damn it.
And they called him that in the script before casting and before he was attached.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Talk about nominative determinism.
I mean, I think this gets to the point of what's both great about Ryan Gosling and why he maybe wasn't the best choice for this film is when you have Ryan Gosling in a movie, he's never not Ryan Gosling. It's kind of like Owen Wilson, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh man, Owen Wilson is Rylan Grant. That would be, yeah. So like, are you saying that we got to go to this like planet where they also have, but it's still, the sun's still shining there?
There's like a lot of pursed lips and pausing.
Yeah. So like, I'm supposed to go back into my spaceship. We just got here, right? Yeah. Ryan Gosling, the guy Owen Wilson, you never don't see Ryan Gosling. He is incredibly charming.
Totally.
He's incredibly charismatic. He's a wonderful emotional actor. He's not a character actor though. He's a leading man, and he's a particular. 10 years ago it would have been Matt Damon, and literally 10 years ago they made The Martian, which is kind of like the warm up
with Matt Damon.
Yeah. Now it's Ryan Gosling. He's wonderful. But I think the parable of Ryan Gosling is illustrative in this particular case.
That is a great one. Yeah. Jesse Dukes, will you watch this movie again?
I don't think so. I will certainly read the book again. Here's one scenario in which I would watch this movie again, though. It would be like at the beach with my nephew in a few years.
Yeah. God, the number of, there needs to eventually be an Upper Middlebrow like bungalow on a beach somewhere that is full of all of the books that were like
Project Hail Mary,
like I'll watch this on a beach someday.
DVD. We got Project Hail Mary on the DVD.
Jenny Grieve, Jenny G and Ben, will you please draw the Upper Middlebrow beach bungalow that is basically like brimming with the books that we kind of don't want to read again? Is basically the way it goes.
What about you? You gonna watch it again?
I mean, I saw it. I'm proud of the fact that I went and watched it again, and I really am. I thought walking over to the movie theater last night, I was like, is this a terrible waste of $20 and 2.5 hours? I was like, I know exactly what happens, and it feels very dutiful, but I was charmed. And the moment when they're in trouble, when they're at Planet Adrian, it really feels like they're in trouble even the second time. And I was like, okay, you got me. But I enjoyed myself, and I ate my $11.49 bag of popcorn with the tiny paper cup of water that they deigned to give me with it, and I enjoyed myself.
It's not a movie you don't enjoy. There's plenty to like when you're there. I think it would be valuable to go see it again as a script writing filmmaking exercise because of the density. I noticed a lot of what they were doing to kind of those transitions that you're talking about. Those, I can't quite recall them to mind, but there's a lot of stuff like it's very dense. And so I'm sure you would see more if you watched it again. And if I needed to watch a movie with a kid, like a 10-year-old or something like that, or a teenager on a family vacation, I'd be like, oh, that's a pretty good one. Let's watch that one. And I would find something to like about it. I would enjoy it.
Yeah, it's watchable. It's not rewatchable too many times, but yeah, it's for sure.
And I would definitely hum Yakety Yaks when Grace does his run. Go, Grace! Yeah!
All right, roll credits.
Roll credits.
You're up.
Yeah, hang on. I got to switch docs. Okay, yeah. So coming up next, everybody, is the novella. I believe it's a novella. Billy Budd. Long short story novella, novelette, something like that. Novelino. Novelissimo.
I like that.
It's a little...
I like novelissimo. Novelito?
Novelitino. It's a short novel, long story, Billy Budd, written by Herman Melville. And then we're going to watch the Claire Denis film, Beau Travail. And so this comes from that. So check out that book. We're back. And we're going to be coming at you roughly every 2 weeks. Upper Middlebrow is a small point production. Chris Bagg and Jesse Dukes are humanity's last desperate hope. Music by Ben Pajak and Jesse Dukes. Design and website by Chris Bagg. We are supported by Jenny Grieve and Justin Wright. Thanks, guys. Find us on Patreon, where there are a number of tiers at which you, too, could show your support for this show.
And as a reminder, everybody, if it weren't obvious, Jesse and I are both writers and editors, and we can help you with your writing, podcasting, or editing project. Jesse has been instrumental in helping me with my own podcast.
Which is taking off.
It's doing pretty well. You can see some of our portfolios and learn more at our respective websites, chrisbag.com and jessedukes.com. Thanks for listening, everybody.